Okay, we ready? So our three strategic plan focus areas for our budget are listed here, and they are fully aligned with the school board budget priorities that drove our development process for this budget. The budget priorities are reconfiguration, focus on student programs, and staff compensation and benefits to attract and retain quality and diverse staff. Next, thank you. You're ahead of me. You're faster than I am. Charlottesville is fortunate to have many wonderful staff teaching and leading programs for our students. Here are a few examples of state and national recognition of our Charlottesville educators. To the left here, you see pictured Miss Cicely Shelton Barnes, who received the JMU Literacy Alumni Award. Miss Barnes is currently our media specialist at Venable. In the middle, you see Miss Laura Mulligan Thomas, the director of our Charlottesville High School Orchestra, who received the 2022 Elizabeth A.H. Green School Educator Award. And to the right, you see Miss Pamela Price Brown, who wears many hats for us here in Charlottesville City Schools, and she received the Ford Freedom Unsung Winner Award. This slide here speaks to the landscape of some of the challenges we need City Council's help to successfully navigate forward. Supporting mental health. In the past 2 years, Charlottesville City Schools has added 11.5 school mental health professional positions. Needs in this area were increasing before the pandemic, and COVID has exacerbated these needs. The next would be embracing our English language learners. Charlottesville City Schools is consistently among the most diverse systems in the nation. New English language learners embraced by the IRC here in Charlottesville continue to be enrolled within Charlottesville City Schools, and we continuously work to support these new learners. Charlottesville City Schools currently host students who speak 51 languages. The next area would be acceleration of learning. So we know that COVID impacted learning for all students and widened the achievement gap for disadvantaged students. The next area would be our national teacher shortage. Charlottesville is not immune to this challenge and must compete in this arena where demands exceed supply. The number of unfilled teaching positions across Virginia has spiked by nearly 62%. We will be talking, or I guess the next one would be inflation. And as recently as February of this year, the inflation rate is stated at 7.5%. And the last two areas are reconfiguration and alignment of non-recurring federal funds with non-recurring expenditures. And we'll be talking more specifically about reconfiguration and the funds as we go through this presentation. This thermometer graphic is what we've been using to help all stakeholders understand the current situation where non-recurring federal relief funds had to be used to address the needs and challenges for the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget. As you can see, the current fiscal year 2022 adopted budget is with recurring expenditures funded using those non-recurring or one-time revenue sources. So there are two ways to cool or decrease the dependency on those non-recurring revenues. We can increase revenue from recurring sources, and then also we can look to decrease expenses. Ms. Powell will show you how we've been very intentional about beginning the process of eliminating our dependency on these non-recurring funds. And we need to keep in mind that these non-recurring funds expire in September 2024. So what this means is that we have one more year and one more budget cycle to figure this out. The budget we develop for fiscal year 2024 will need to effectively empty this thermometer. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Powell, and she will speak to you all about our budget in a little bit more depth. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Torres. Good evening, Mayor Snook and members of council and city officials. This slide just provides an overview of the actions that are embedded into the budget that the school board has adopted for fiscal year 2023. These highlights include a 5% average salary action for staff. This is in line with the current state budget proposal. Our health insurance did have an increase of about 10%, but it's important to bear in mind that last year we basically held it level and we just addressed it from within health insurance fund balance. Medical inflation has been running around 5% per year leading up to 2022. So really, this is just a catch-up year in that regard. We're always looking for ways to control our healthcare costs. And so we're very proactive in that area. We had over $224,000 in reductions that staff put forward to offset $81,267 in increases for recurring and non-discretionary contracts. So all department heads and school leaders really comb through their budgets to try to find reductions to not more than offset increases in non-discretionary areas and contracts. The one exception to that was the city contracts for transportation facilities and maintenance and stormwater taxes that we pay to the city. So those increases were a little over $878,000. Our other reductions total over $980,000. So almost $1 million in other reductions were put forward in this adopted budget, and that included the reduction of 17 positions. Minimal new funding or added expenses were included in the budget. As far as operations, there was the total was a little over $5,000. The school board adopted budget is based on the governor's budget proposal. That would be Governor Northam's budget proposal, which is provides for an additional 1.7 million plus in state funding for next year. We're happy to report that the Senate and House versions of the budget so far don't deviate from this too much. It could be around $125,000. Either proposal looks like we may lose a little bit of money, but in the scheme of things, it's not a drastic variance with what we're seeing so far out of the House and Senate. And then this budget proposal that the school board has adopted with the actions that I've reviewed for you there assumes that we will only need 2.1 million in our non-recurring federal relief funds in order to sustain operations next year. So you'll see in the next slide how significantly that reduces the thermometer. But all of that to say, when all the work is done, the request for the city this year was based on the formula allocation increase of a little over 3.3 million. And then the increases in, we asked for funding to support the increases in the city contracts. So this money that we receive from the city and then send back to the city. And that totals the estimated or the city request. It's not estimated at this point. It was $4,216,341. And I apologize, I'm not in slideshow view because when I was in slideshow view earlier, I don't think you all could see it. So I hope these slides are large enough because I'm just leaving it in this view. So here you see where the thermometer goes after the school board's adopted budget proposal. We do manage to drain it down to 2.1 million in non-recurring funds still in use for operations next year. As Ms. Torres mentioned, we've got one more budget cycle to figure this out and drain the thermometer. The table in the upper right shows the use of our grant funds, our relief funds from the federal government. You can see that our total of all of our major awards was a little over 15.7 million. We spent over $336,000 last year in the first year that the money started coming in. This year's adopted budget projects use of about 4.6 million. And the proposed budget for next year calls for use of 2.1 million, which would leave about 8.7 million still in federal relief funds. Again, all of these monies have to be used by September of 2024. So this is a chart showing our overall budget. And a couple things just to point out, you see that the increase in the city appropriation based on the school board adopted budget would be 7.18%. And the other thing that kind of jumps out at you is the large increase in fund balance and federal dollars. These are both related to the big influx of relief funds that came in starting last year. And the unbudgeted and significant inflow of federal relief dollars that started in fiscal year 2021 resulted in higher than normal excess of revenues over expenses with all that money coming in. So that overage did go into the gain sharing agreement we have with the city, which added to the CCS fund balance, but also resulted in revenues returned to the city. This chart shows the history of city appropriations for schools. With few exceptions, the city has increased funding above the formula baseline amount and in line with the $2 to $4 million annual funding gap that was projected in the city's 2014 Blue Ridge Commission report, Sustainable School Funding Report. The Blue Ridge Commission report also highlights the need for additional revenue streams like the sales tax that so many people around Charlottesville and the state have been working to enable through legislation in the current General Assembly session. I'd like to take a moment to thank Council and specifically Mayor Snook and Vice Mayor Wade for your advocacy efforts in support of this legislation. Please know the school board and staff are doing all we can behind the scenes as well to support passage of this legislation to enable this revenue generating tool for this community, for our community. This chart just shows it breaks down all those CARES awards and how the money came into Charlottesville City Schools. So you see here the total, again, 15.7 million. And it shows you the spend down dates. And again, the last final deadline is spend down by September 30th of 2024. This next chart, I know it has a lot of words on it, but basically the purpose is just to mainly convey to the public that if you visit charlottesvillschools.org/COVID-communications, that is our webpage where we provide our up-to-date COVID mitigation health plan information, but also our planned use of the ARPA ESSER funds. That information is also available and constantly updated on that website, and the public can provide comment on either the health safety plan or the uses of ARPA funds. The public can provide comment through this webpage at any time. Of course, comments always welcome at the school board meetings as well. So as we work together to move non-recurring funds out of our operations budget and align those funds with non-recurring expenses, the logical place to look to do that and best serve the community is non-recurring capital expenses. It's really the only, when you have significant non-recurring dollars to spend, as Ms. Torres mentioned in our challenges earlier, you really got to find meaningful non-recurring expenses to put that money towards. And that is, that's construction type projects, it's capital projects. And the use of these funds, which was on that earlier slide that had lots of words on it, it was all about, safe return to in-person learning, health mitigation, recovery from academic learning loss, and social emotional supports, mental wellness. That's what the money is intended for. But understanding this need to align non-recurring funds with non-recurring expenditures, there is a approval process we can go through with the state to get approval to use our non-recurring funds for capital projects. And we've already had initial conversations with the Department of Education to make sure we understand that process, because we hope to exercise that process. And the table on the left is just a scenario that shows, again, that total of our relief funds, what we actually spent last year, what the estimate is for this year, what's proposed for FY 2023. And then you see a $1.8 million allowance to address some technology infrastructure and potential carryover of need for FY 24. And in that particular scenario, which is, I don't have a crystal ball, it's just a scenario, but it's easily around 7 million that would be available to support capital projects. And so how can the school board support reconfiguration? How can we work together to support reconfiguration in a financial way? Of course, the school board can't tax. We don't have any way to generate money, but we can be wise about these federal relief dollars. And so what this chart shows, it's a list of all of the current projects in the CIP for the schools, excluding reconfiguration. Reconfiguration is in the current CIP, but it's not included in this list because it can't be completed within the period of performance for these monies, which ends again September 2024. We won't be done with that construction project in that time frame. But shifting these projects from local to federal dollars helps reconfiguration by relieving pressure on the CIP and freeing up those dollars or that debt capacity to address other needs. Please know that our team has already reached out to city facilities to do two things. One, look at the projects already completed to see if we can obtain the necessary documentation to certify that these projects were executed in compliance with all the federal requirements so that they'll be eligible for reimbursement. So these are those first three projects that are already in the rearview mirror because they weren't bid under federal regulations. We just have to go back and see, can we get the Davis-Bacon wage certifications and things like that so that we could request reimbursement on these three projects. The second thing is making sure that all the upcoming projects are bid with the federal compliance provisions included. And the city procurement staff certainly has experience with this as recently as all the HVAC work that was done with federal relief funds. That all has to meet those same regulations. So this is the last slide we have on this topic, but we do want to make you aware that we've already got in the bank, so to speak, over $800,000. It's $808,685 in grant money that was available. This is outside of that $15.7 million. This was money that was provided by the state to help with HVAC projects. And so we applied for that money and we got the maximum award that Charlottesville was eligible to receive. So all of the projects you see listed here are in the current CIP or were in the, in our recent CIP. Some of them, again, have been completed, but all of these are eligible for reimbursement. And these did not have to be bid with all the same federal regulatory language in there. So this has all been approved by the state already, and this is money that will come in to relieve the CIP. So in summary, if you take everything that is HVAC related in the current CIP for schools, and then you take every other project in the CIP, the current CIP except reconfiguration, it's possible that all of that could be funded from federal relief funds, but there is a process involved. It takes time. We do have to get approval, but we do want to raise everyone's awareness to this and just let everyone know that we are working diligently to try to be in a position to maximize these dollars for these purposes. And I believe that's the last slide in the deck that I'll speak to. I'll turn it back over to Ms. Torres.
Thank you, Ms. Powell. And again, please note the efforts that Charlottesville City Schools has made to lower the thermometer and also to identify other possibilities for funding sources and options to release current Charlottesville City School projects in that CIP budget projection. Up till now, we've spent a lot of time talking about the many whys for reconfiguration during our joint February work session. The key points, that we discussed are summarized here. Some of those being addressing the aging facility issues, reducing student transitions during critical middle school years, providing modern state-of-the-art facilities to support best practices and to improve safety and to reduce our carbon footprint. The school board also wants to take this opportunity to again go on the record that we unanimously and passionately support maintaining the $75 million allocation currently in the CIP for the middle school project. It is the single biggest and most impactful step needed for this long overdue correction of a well-intentioned but unfortunate decision in the late 1980s to resolve a segregation issue by adding significant transition and disruption during the developmental middle school years for our students. There's good reason that you will struggle greatly to find comparable models to what we currently have for 5th to 8th grade in Charlottesville. If this were not enough, the buildings in question also need significant renovations for multiple reasons, including safety. And the buildings are not current by any standard, and reconfiguring Buford is the single most significant project the city has to reduce its carbon footprint. We are grateful to each of you for your interest and commitment to this important topic for our community, and it's a topic that must be kept central with affordable housing because decisions made about housing have significant impacts on the schools. They cannot and should not be mutually exclusive conversations. Next slide, please. Moving forward, we know continued collaboration is essential. We appreciate how city and school staff leadership work together in this budget development process this year, so we could all arrive at this point with no surprises. As I just mentioned, we understand that all of us as elected officials need to take a holistic view of the challenges ahead and think systematically to solve problems together in the most efficient way possible. We pledge that our school leaders and this board will continuously use data and the best available information to make decisions for the students we serve. And we will be transparent in our work, both in developing our operating budgets and in the reconfiguration work that has been a very public and visible process since it began with the $3 million allocation that enabled the design process to start. And now we are at the point of needing to decide more specifically about the cost and scope we are designing for. Please let us know when you would like to meet to continue this discussion and collaboration to keep us moving forward in this important process for current Charlottesville City School students and for many generations to come. Thank you again for your time. And if you have any questions, Dr. Gurley and Ms. Powell are available.
Counselors have any questions?
No, not per se, but I do want to just say again that I appreciate the thoughtfulness that y'all have done in terms of trying to find money, so to speak, to sort of help with the reconfiguration project. We'll see how all of that shakes out, but I appreciate that creativity, so thank you.
Yeah, I just like to chime in to say that, you know, I know a lot of work was put into this budget. I know what is involved in pulling it together, and I also like the fact that there's no surprises, that Dr. Gurley and staff has been meeting with Mr. Rogers and Ms. Hamill to address some of the issues that we have. Of course, not, you know, we're going to have to make the decision on the reconfiguration over the next month or so as we have our work sessions and you know, try to address this really critical issues of the reconfiguration. But the budget is very straightforward, where, you know, we had to use a lot of the ARPA money but we're weaning our way off of that. And I think we did it very strategically, working with City Council and with staff to, you know, but also getting some very critical things done over the last couple of years. So very happy with the budget. You know, we now as a council will have to decide on the larger issues. So thank you.
Let me just say, we've had the city manager's budget for, I don't know, maybe 6 hours now. It's 227 pages long. Pardon me for not having yet mastered it, but we'll have to take a look and figure out. I haven't even had a chance to look at the capital piece of it. So a lot of discussions to have. And unfortunately, I for one, am not prepared to have much in the way of a substantive discussion tonight, but there will be plenty of other opportunities in the next 4 to 6 weeks. Counselors, any comments at this point?
Well, I do know that I have been trying and will continue to keep trying, looking through as the Build Back Better bill gets released, various grants that we might be able to, and I'm actually planning on bringing this up on Hill Day next week, especially regarding how localities are being kind of strangled at the state level. And we'll continue to keep fighting that with the VML and VFC, et cetera. So.
Yeah. One comment I would like to make, I did appreciate in particular 2 things. One was the effort to reduce the one-time funds going to recurring expenses this year so that it becomes possible to complete that process next year. instead of just saying, we'll deal with it all next year. And the second thing is I'm really excited about the fact that we can have a number of the capital expenditures for other schools taken care of, perhaps out of this funding. One of the things that has, you've probably heard me make these comments before, but when we end up with things for the schools on the authorized but not issued bonds list, something we thought we approved 2 years ago or 3 years ago, when we're wondering why hasn't this been done yet, this is a way to make it happen. And that's great. It's great for you. It's great for us. It frees up money for other things. So I really do appreciate the thought that went into that. So,
Lloyd, one quick
Yeah.
thing, sir, that I hope that we will continue to push for this sales tax next year. You know, we have a little bit more time to talk to delegates, and more importantly, their constituents in their different communities, just to allow our voters here to have an opportunity to vote on this sales tax. So we needed, I think our decisions over the next 4 to 6 weeks would have been a lot easier with that option. So thank you.
and our delegate and our senator tell us not to completely give up hope for this budget year. There may be some budget amendment that's proposed on the floor, but on the other hand, call it a hope rather than expectation. So, but yes, next year we may have more such discussions.
And I will also say that both of our local our local senator and our local representative fought hard for this, did everything they could. And we need to be reaching out to other localities, friends and family who live across Virginia, to ask them to get in touch with their representatives.
And by the way, I think, well, I appreciate the recognition for Vice Mayor Wade and myself. Councilor McGill also made an appearance, I think, at some ridiculously early hour of the morning. And I don't remember whether either Mr. Pinkston or Mr. Payne did, but the one thing about these committees is they always meet at 7:30 in the morning. And for a night owl like me, man, that's tough. Anyway, thank you all for a whole lot of people for a whole lot of work on this. And thank you, school board people, for this budget. If there's nothing else on this, are we ready to move on? Thank you, school folks.
Thank you.